And I think everyone's just going to, like you said, settle in and it's going to be more of a focus on connection. At least that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely noticed more so than when I started homeschooling. We've had a lot of pendulum swinging the last several years.
That's what,
And I think that this is the year that the pendulum stops. And I'm
Mm.
really excited for that.
Welcome to the Homeschool Perspective, where seasoned homeschooling moms share tips, insights, and resources to empower your homeschool journey.
Welcome back to the Homeschool Perspective podcast. Happy New Year, friends. As we ring in 2025, we are kicking off this year with an episode that is all about looking forward. Today, we're diving into our predictions and intentions for 2025, what this year might hold for homeschooling and families, and also how we're setting our intentions to make it a meaningful one. This conversation will explore the trends we're watching, exciting technologies on the horizon, and some changes we see shaping the homeschool landscape. But it's not just about the trends. We're also sharing a little peek into our own homeschooling lives as we enter this new year. So grab your coffee or tea, get cozy with your leftovers, and let's dive in. So, ladies, what do you think 2025 will be the year of in relation to homeschooling and families?
Ooh, I love it. I think that homeschooling's been growing, obviously, steadily for decades. But since we've had that massive growth in the last 4.5 years, there's been a lot of, I feel like everything got really big and really fast. And it was like, we're going simple, we're going this, we're doing fun, we're doing all these things. And I feel like we're coming into a place now where a lot of the newness has worn off. A lot of people are getting more comfortable with homeschooling and what it is and what it means. More options are becoming available. And I feel like this is almost going to be like a settling in year, like where people are, not chasing the big things, not chasing the standards, not chasing, stuff. I think this is going to be the year of like really people like digging in and leaning in to all that's available. And I think that is going to be aided by technology that's coming our way in homeschooling. I think it's going to be aided by the expansion of homeschool opportunities for homeschoolers. I think there's a lot of stuff coming where people are going to be, instead of chasing things that look similar to what they're used to, I feel like this is going to be the year of settling into more of like the magic and the special sauce of what homeschooling is.
That's what I was going to say, like one word. It's going to be the year of connection.
Ooh,
I think
like
because like I feel the same thing, the same thing that you were saying, like it's been so all over the place a little bit, like with new people coming in and like you said, trying to make it look like it did, or like something else. And then there's the homeschoolers that have been homeschooling forever, and everyone's trying to kind of keep up, and like it's been a little new, rocky a little bit, and I think everyone's just going to, like you said, settle in and it's going to be more of a focus on connection. At least that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely noticed more so than when I started homeschooling, like, back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. We've had a lot of pendulum swinging the last several years.
That's what,
And I think that this is the year that the pendulum stops. And I'm really excited for that. I remember as a new homeschooling mom, when we stopped trying all the new things and we're just like, no, this works for us. We didn't feel the need to like fit anyone else's mold. I think we're entering as a homeschooling community, we're entering the place where everyone gets to own what works for their family and stand in it. And it's no longer is that legal? Is that allowed? Can we do that? Are we really homeschoolers? If it's literally this time where it's like, what do you need? Do your kids need to school online? Do your kids need to go to a co-op? Do you need your kids to have somebody else home educate them?
Yeah.
Right? Or do you want to use print and go curriculum that takes just a couple of hours in the morning or a half an hour a day? Or do you want something super classical and meaty where they're spending 6 hours a day with their nose in books? And all of them are good. I think gone are the days of, oh no, there's only one right way.
Yeah. Or maybe like this month it looks one way and next month it looks different. Like even
month, like week, right?
Weekday. I know. Like I think the bite size learning is going to be bigger too. Like just little, maybe we would have called this project-based learning, maybe something like that, or like unit studies or things, but it's not, I feel like those labels are even kind of blending into
Like to
each
the
other.
wayside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're because it's all becoming that almost. And so just having those little bite-size learning things that come in and they're great, and then we can move on to another thing, and we can use that to bring in our kids' interests, and
Mhm.
even if they're fleeting, but bring in those interests, like bring it in, we learn all about all the things, and then move on to the next thing. It's just a settling in, like you guys have been
Yeah.
saying.
Well, and I think like going off of that, those bite-sized pieces, there's so many more things becoming available where you can grab that quickly and easily and kids can explore more. But I think those tools before it was like, okay, if we're going to do that, we also need to do this, and this because we got to
Yes.
chase, we got to grab,
And
and
we
you're
got to
right, the
make sure
pendulum would
we're
swing. It would go from, it's been going from really minimalist homeschool and everything has to be beautiful and perfect and small and short to now we're going to go super fun and we have to have everything prepped. And it's been, swinging either way, or classical is the only way, or this is the only way, and that's the
Mhm.
only way. And I feel like as more and more people have started to understand, and as more people have come to market with curriculum and programs, people are looking around and realizing just how all of it can be enough, right? Like
Right.
there isn't, there was a lot of things that I think we used to say, oh, well, that's a really nice addition, but we also need to bop, 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 bop. And I feel like that sense of almost like anxiety or like nervous energy in the homeschooling world is starting to ebb a little bit. It's starting to just fall away a little bit. And I hope that's going to stick. But I do think we're headed in that direction. And I think it's a good one.
I love that. Now, each of us bring different things to the table, and we are all as united as we are in a lot of ideologies, we're so different in execution and even opinions, thoughts, processes, and backgrounds. So I'm curious, Allie, with your experience and what you see, because you're definitely a thought leader in a lot of these areas, where do you see this going from a laws and regulations standpoint, as far as the options go for homeschoolers and the type of homeschooling available?
So I'm glad we have to talk about it, right? Like this is the part where people would prefer not to, but we do have to talk about it. There are some really big shifts happening, local, state, and nationwide in the United States. And the reality is that the United States leads a lot of other nations when it comes to these things. And so it
Absolutely.
is something to keep an eye on. We are definitely seeing, and obviously we have a little more time before we see how a lot of these things are going to come to fruition, but we are seeing a general shift towards legislative efforts that support, in big ways, support homeschooling, support parents' rights, support,
Yay.
right? Support things like micro schools and school choice.
Mhm.
We're seeing there are things on the table right now like massive tax support, tax breaks, which homeschoolers have been saying they would like for a really long time. For homeschooling, we're seeing so many of those things come to the table, and we're seeing a lot of shifts at every level of government that are moving in this direction of really shifting support from institutions and more to local and even parent centric education options. So I think for us, what this means is that for us as homeschooling parents, I think what this means is that the options for us are going to be expanding even more. I think that the options are going to be expanding. I think that the flexibility that we have financially will be expanding as far as access to resources. I see a potential for things like support for our special needs students, tutors, things like that, expanding if the things being laid on the table are what are enacted. So I do think that there's going to be kind of a renaissance of homeschooling and alternative education in these coming years. And I think that is going to be really exciting and really great. And I think we're all going to be, I think homeschooling will benefit from it. But on the other side, we always want to keep an eye out to make sure that as the fun stuff, good stuff, things that we want are coming, they're not bringing with them the things that we might not want, increased regulation and things of that nature. So I would encourage people to make sure you're on those lists we've talked about in other episodes. You're getting those email updates, staying on top of it. But I am seeing micro schools are going to become more available. Homeschool hybrids are going to become more available. Right now, there's only a few states where it's really hard to make those happen, but they're growing rapidly. And I see a lot of different programs like getting themselves ready to be more widely available. I really think we're going to see an explosion of options for educating your children in whatever way serves best. I really do. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see a renaissance in education.
I love that. Now, Rachel, you are our resident fun, hands-on STEM arts music
Yes.
person, right? And I've got to say, since I started homeschooling, again, back when the dinosaurs started roaming the earth, it was a different world. We didn't have all of the technology we have today. And here's the crazy part to me. I used to be able to say that about 5 years ago, but now I can say that this school year, we have access to tools we didn't have access to last school year.
Mm.
So how do you see that affecting our students and our homeschool choices?
Just the amount of resources that we're having available.
Yeah, how do we help them use that and make use of them? Because it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be creative as a homeschool parent and look at each of these resources as to what exactly it's bringing to their education, and not just looking at things as, oh, this is an art curriculum or whatever, and so it teaches art, but what else is this touching on? What else can we attach it to? How can we make this more meaningful for our kids and not just be, oh, that's art and art is art, but not even that, like science. How can we take this? Here's an example. Okay, here's a fun example. Now, Allie, I know you don't love this book in particular, but Skunk and Badger. My kids loved Skunk and Badger, and we read that book for as a read aloud in our homeschool. And then several months later, we started a rocks and mineral. We're doing earth science this year. Now, that just happened to like line up perfectly. But we did that. And then we're learning about rocks and minerals. So now every time I say anything about rocks or minerals to my kids, I'm like, rock or mineral, mineral or rock. Because that's what Badger says. He's a rock scientist in the book. And so it's this integration of the subjects and just being creative and being able to just maybe, I didn't know beforehand, like it was going to line up like that, but seeing where those things line up and being able to integrate that, we can integrate that with STEM learning and with art. And we painted story stones, and then the kids told stories based on what was on their stones, and they got real out of hand, and it was like wild and crazy stories. I'm sure we could do better. But, it is what it is. But even that, bringing in, all of those elements of tons of different subject areas. We went literature, and then we went, science, and then we went art, and then we like kind of like went back to writing. So it's like this whole like web that we can create with our learning. And I think it just, with all of these resources that are becoming available, all of these things that are out there, if we can put our like creative juice hats on and just start thinking creatively of how it all ties together, the learning is going to be more meaningful for our kids than if we were just like, it's time for art and now it's time for language arts and now it's time, and that's one of the beauties of homeschooling, is because we're in all these subject areas with our kids and we can integrate it if we just can see it creatively. So
I love that so much. That's actually what we're going to be doing next school year when we have a third grader.
mhm.
Our newest third grade curriculum is project based. So we're doing 10 projects throughout the year, and each project uses all the subjects in one space.
Yeah.
And they're doing this, like, I call it lifestyle learning.
Mhm.
And I'm so excited about it. And the reason we wait
Yes.
till they're third grade is I like the differentiation when they're younger. I like them seeing the overlap and experiencing the overlap. But I also like laying the strong foundations. Like, here's like, we need to like lay these math foundations. You need to learn the math rules and you need to learn the spelling rules. And so there's a little bit, separation. But I also think that that same journey that our kids are on is ours too. Like, in the beginning, when we first start homeschooling, we need that separation to feel confident. We need to learn how to teach math and how to teach science and how to teach writing, right? But then when we get comfortable with those rules and those foundations, then we can really integrate and
Yeah.
move forward.
And some of those need to stay separate. Like, we
Yes.
need to keep
Mhm.
progressing on in, our writing skills or our phonics
Yeah.
or math skills and things like that. But pulling them back and showing that integration when it's naturally happening is really good for that lifelong learning, for it to be meaningful and to like stick with them. I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
It can also take things so much deeper. Like the
Sure.
curriculum that I've developed where we're focused on history, but then we're going to do a PE activity that takes
Yes.
that war and puts it into your bodies. Like
Yes.
these other things, it like sometimes the integration is actually something that brings those roots down deeper, right?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of like expanding out, it can go both ways. And since our brains all work so differently, I love that there's these options are expanding and you can
Yeah.
go this way or you can go deeper and deeper.
Yeah. And so we're doing like the opposite of what you're doing, Allie, with our curriculum is we're taking all of that fun stuff and showing how it connects to history and how it connects to the war and, or whatever. So yeah,
All
that's
of
so
the
fun.
options.
It's so fun.
It's really neat. And, like along those lines, looking forward to 2025 and beyond, have you guys noticed that when you get those emails from the marketing companies that sell homeschool resources or you go to the homeschool websites, the messaging is so different? So, like when I started, it was this hard focus on these books meet these standards and your kids will be prepared to take these tests. And then it was your kid will become a well rounded individual. They'll become like a classical person that they're going to know all the things, not just classical education, but meaning like an expert in all the areas. And then it was, okay, we can simplify this. We're making this harder than it needs to be. And now it's, oh, and by the way, it can be fun too.
Hmm.
Right? Like, are you seeing this progression? And I love this. I love that my youngest set of homeschoolers are going to grow up in the era of fun homeschooling. I'm really looking
Woohoo!
forward to this.
I love
I
it.
love that. Well, and I think that touches on another trend we're seeing right now in that there was such a heavy emphasis for several decades on everything that we do in education, starting in preschool, is all about college. Like it
Mm,
was, that has been, and that's in every style of education for the last 30 years. We have had literally everything. Like when they're creating a standard for kindergarten, they say it is so they're ready. It's like, so you go to the next level. It's all focused on
Hmm.
4-year degrees in college. And we are seeing a massive shift in that. Not that 4-year degrees are going away, not that college is bad, none of that stuff, but in that people are seeing it as there's a lot of other options. There's a lot of ways to get into those 4-year universities. You don't have to follow the very standardized path, and that it's not always the right call to pay for, right? Like it's a very expensive venture and, people are looking at return on investment and things like that. So I think that's also part of why some of the intensity trends are falling away as people are realizing like, well, wait a minute, we're trying to build people who are thinkers and are lifelong learners and are going to be able to grow and change as our world does. Because I mean, did you see the Tesla robots? Like literally everything is going super speed right now.
Right.
So our kids have got to be able to grow and adapt with that. And I think that rigidity of like the entire goal is to go to more school and that school is, I
Right.
think a lot of that's falling away too, which is making room for this fun, these deeper dives, the making connections. And I think that is going to benefit us. I really do.
So, how does this affect you guys? Like, I know we talked about like the homeschooling world in general heading into 2025, but are you guys doing anything special with your kids, with yourself, with your homeschool as you look forward to this year?
I was like, Rachel, are you?
Well, I don't
I'm like,
know.
I see wheels. I see wheels going.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if like anything's going to change for us. I mean, we feel like we're always constantly evolving and just looking at things from a business, perspective as well, and always adjusting, and making sure that what we're creating is fitting the needs of homeschool families. I'm always adjusting and tweaking and moving, changing things up in our own homeschool. So I like the idea of more connectedness always in my own family. So I'm hoping that that is a trend that I pull in for 2025. That's my intention, is to just be more connected with my kids, and to look more at what their interests are and continue to be more just creative in how I'm pulling all of everything in a creative way.
I
I
love
love that.
that.
I love
What about you,
I love
Allie?
the creativity that blooms in your house. I think it's awesome.
It's so
Um,
inspiring. Oh
Sometimes
my
it's
gosh.
it's a little overwhelming. Sometimes, okay, literally, I have to tell my kids, no, this is not a time to be creative. You can be creative later with this. But right now, I need you to be boring and not creative. And the kids think that's hilarious. They're like, Mom doesn't want us to be creative. And it's this, but I mean, I always give them a chance to be creative, but sometimes I just need them just to like,
can you just solve the math
Dial it
problem and
down
not
and
turn
learn.
it into a drawing?
I know.
My goodness. My daughter's math book literally looks like a storybook at this point. Because
Yes.
for every math problem she does, there's 3 doodles and like castles developing behind them. And I'm like,
Yes, I
That's
love it.
awesome.
it is awesome. It is awesome. But
So
sometimes I'm like, can we just finish? And then you could draw all you want. Just get it
Yeah.
done.
But the drawing is helping her solve those math problems. Like it is,
yeah.
you know.
I think for us, we going into 2025, there are some changes that are happening for us that are not necessarily like, of course, we adjust things as we go, but we do have like an underlying philosophy that's important to us, educationally and just in our family dynamic and character development, all of those things. But something that's become really abundantly clear to us recently, and you guys are going to laugh because I teach people this, right? Like, this is what I help people with.
Yeah.
My kids are so different and they thrive in such different environments. And so, having the co-op that we all go to and having, things that we all do, we're just realizing how in a lot of ways that really had like some of those things have not served us well for each individual kiddo. And there's been things that I was resistant to because I didn't like them. Like they're not a part of my philosophy or what I see for education. And as my kids are getting older, there's, I have one kiddo in particular where I'm like, this thing that I was not feeling like I wanted and integrated into our education. Now, it's not something that goes against our values or core beliefs or anything like that. It's more of a style choice and more technology heavy, more other things that I had wanted to avoid because of what I saw as what I wanted for homeschool. I'm realizing just how much this child thrives in that, how many connections they make by being a part of that and being a part of those communities. And so this is going to be a year of, for us, it's going to be a year of kind of digging into where we're at and what each individual child needs and letting go of the things that a letting go year, letting go of some things that I always really like held on tightly to that I'm realizing I don't need to hold so tightly to. So I think for us, it's also a settling year, even though we've been homeschooling forever, even though I was homeschooled, even though I teach homeschooling, our kids are always teaching us lessons, right? And they're always putting a mirror up. And as we're coming into the teen years here, like things are changing and things are adjusting. And as long as we're keeping those core values centric, we're gonna start letting go of some things that we've held tightly to. So
And just
it'll
more
be an
like
interesting year.
individualized attention on each.
Yeah, well, yes. No,
Yes
it's
and no?
more in their activities. Like, I'm
Okay.
trying to like simplify, like let's have less, less, less. And I'm realizing like I have one kid who is an
It needs
extreme
more, more,
extrovert,
more.
but
I've
with
got one too.
hyper fixated, but also with hyper fixation and very, very narrow realms of what they are passionate about and very into. And I'm just going like, I cannot be as extroverted as this child needs and wants and desires to be It's just not going to happen. And my other kids are not that extroverted. So when we try to chase that for him together, it melts everyone down.
Yeah.
And this hyperfixation point was not something that I wanted a lot of, well, it's technology related. And I was just like, I don't want you spending all this time like, on computer, but coding and all of these things, he's finding his people. He's really passionate. It's really, I have never done drop-off programs. Never. I've built them, but we've never actually done them. We've made attempts a couple of times.
Wow.
And my oldest really desires to, and we have found a place. He is going to be doing a STEM tech-based drop-off one day a week next year. Not the whole day, because I'm slowly loosening my hand here.
Slowly releasing.
But we're shifting gears. We're following that need and that desire. And that was a long way around, guys, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I love it. So like what I'm hearing is the same thing we're experiencing, that even as the homeschool landscape is changing, we also constantly have to change our own homeschool, our own families, right? Like, so that's what I took away. I loved what you said earlier about it being the renaissance of homeschooling.
Yeah.
I just think that's so beautiful. And the year of settling in, not settling for something, but settling into something.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, ladies, thank you so much. And everybody who's listening, thank you. 2025 is going to be an amazing year for homeschoolers and in our homeschooling homes. And we are sure that you are enjoying it too. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you are making some changes or you have some thoughts about what's coming in 2025, please drop them in the comments below. And until next time, remember, it's your family and your homeschool, and you get to set the course. Take care.